Hello, and welcome to our webinar entitled Extender Marketplace for Sage 300. My name is Steve from Orchid, and I'm very excited to introduce the Extender Marketplace to all of you today. With me, I've got Anne and Natalie from Orchid, I've Scott from Robert Lavery and Associates, and Chris from Poplar Development. What we'll be doing is running through what it is, what Extender Marketplace is, how to get to it and how to use it. We'll be running through some examples which showcase the versatility of Extender, examples which meet specific existing customer needs, extending the lifespan of their Sage 300 investment, and examples which will also hopefully meet the needs of prospective customers looking at Sage 300. At the end, we'll have a Q&A, so please, as you're in listen-only mode, please put any questions you've got into the question box. Now, without further ado, what I'll do now is pass you over to Natalie.
Thank you, Steve. Welcome to this presentation on the Extender Marketplace for Sage 300. My name is Natalie, and today Anne and I are pleased to launch the Extender Marketplace to showcase solutions developed for Sage 300 using Extender. The Marketplace is designed to become the platform of choice to find information about customizations done using Extender. We will explain how it works while we're launching it. We'll then demonstrate the various apps presented by developers currently present on the Marketplace. We'll show an app for EFT processing developed by Orchid. Scott from Robert Lavery and Associates will present two workflow solutions, and Chris Binkley from Poplar will demonstrate selected apps. Since its release, Extender has become a well-known platform of choice to customize Sage 300, thanks to its ability to save customizations in the Sage 300 database, upgrade easily, and use Python and its libraries to support the customizations. Over the years, we have found that Extender allows partners to close deals that they might have had to walk away from, as well as increase stickiness of existing users who choose to tailor their existing Sage 300 implementation to their new requirements rather than switch to another package. We also found that many requirements build on similar development framework, so we decided to provide a platform to showcase apps built by Sage 300 developers using Extender. Some are packaged to be reused with just plug and play and some basic configuration. Others are used as building blocks for further Python-based customization to match the exact requirements. We often answer questions about, can Extender do this? And in many cases, the answer will now be available in the Marketplace. And this is the main reason why we are launching this. It's going to help partners find information about customization, about what we can do with Extender and Sage 300. And it will also help developers showcase their work. This should facilitate the pre-sales process and provide more cost-effective development. The Marketplace showcases solutions built by Sage 300 developers using Extender. It is not designed to download or purchase software. End users will purchase through their Sage 300 business partners who will work out which apps are relevant and how they can best be implemented in that particular site. Business partners will purchase directly from the developers, except the Orchid apps, which are available through the usual distributor channel. We encourage Sage 300 Extender developers to contact us to list their apps for Extender. At the moment, we have 3 developers listed. Orchid, the developers of Extender. We have included some apps on the Extender Marketplace. As many of you are aware, we have provided samples Extender scripts on the website to help partners learn how to use Extender. They're more designed as training resources rather than full solutions, but a few of them are full solutions, and we have included them in the apps. Robert Lavery and Associates, also known as RLA, is best known as the distributor of Orchid products in America and have developed some workflow apps that Scott will demonstrate today. Poplar has been providing custom development and automation services for Sage 300 building on Extender, and is also well known as the developer of Customization Manager and Remote Action Service. Let's have a look at the Extender Marketplace now on the website. The Extender Marketplace is available on the Orchid website in the Extender menu, orchid.systems. Navigate to the Extender Marketplace, and we can then scroll through, have a look, filter by various Sage 300 modules. So if we look at the general ledger, we have some example designed by Poplar, 2 other post batches with certain descriptions, a journal entry approval workflow which will demonstrate the ability to add optional fields to GL transaction entry grid, which is demonstrated as part of using inter-entity with optional fields, for example. I can look at bank services and have the ability to add optional fields to bank services, as well as an example of a post-bank entry approval workflow. We also have miscellaneous utilities that will need some tailoring to be used. So this gives you an idea as to what is currently on the marketplace, and obviously we will be adding new apps as we go. Today we will focus on a few examples from our 3 developers. From Orchid, we will look at an example to drill down to EFT Screens from AP and AR Screens. Then Scott from RLA will demonstrate 2 examples of workflow, one on GL batch approval and one on bank entry approval. Then we will pass on to Chris from Poplar, who will introduce Customization Manager and show some examples installing using Customization Manager, bank entry optional field, adding fees to early order, and an IC transfer security. First one is going to be a presentation on drill down to EFT Screens, and for this I will hand over to Anne.
If you have both Extender and EFT, you are able to use the Drill to EFT Screens app for Extender, which enables you to drill from AR and AP screens through to the associated EFT screen. If you have both EFT Processing and Extender Developer Edition activated in the same company database, you can import the EFT module into Extender, After importing this module, you need to reopen the Sage 300 desktop. And you will find that on your vendor screen, you have a new button which links you from the AP vendor screen to the EFT vendor screen. On the AP payment batch list, you are able to create the EFT file from the payment batch list. From AR customers, you have a new EFT button which links you through to the EFT customer record. And from the AR receipt batch list, you are able to create the EFT file. These extra buttons on the AP vendor, AR customer, AP payment batch list, and AR receipt batch list save you time in navigating to the corresponding EFT screen and rekeying the key value.
Thank you for this interesting presentation, Anne. Next demo is from Scott of Robert Lavery and Associates, and we will look at two examples of approval workflow on GL account and bank entry.
Hi, welcome to this demonstration of a GL batch approval workflow using Orchid's Extender workflow functionality. First thing I'm going to do is log into my sample company as the user Anne. And the first thing I actually want to do is add a user group. Now, a user group can be used to assign specific users to a certain approval in an Extender workflow. In our case, we're going to be approving a GL batch, so I'm just going to call it GL approvers. So it's the GL approval group. And in my group, I'm going to put myself, Anne, and also Steve. And maybe we'll throw Natalie in too. I'm going to add that group and save it. Now, inside of my workflow template, I'm going to want to change who this workflow gets assigned to. As of now, it gets assigned to a different approver group, and I want it to get assigned to my new one. So I'm going to open up the Finder, find my GL entry batch workflow, open this up, go to the approval request step. That is where you request the approval and assign the approver. See the assign user step here. So I'm going to change approvers to GL approvers. And then I'm going to also change who the emails are being sent to. And then click Save. Now, I'll go into my GL transactions and open up my batch list and attempt to post a GL batch. Just going to choose one at random here, so let's go with this one, December 16th, 2020, and set it to ready to post. Oh, would you look at that, a workflow is already in progress, so let's try a different batch. Let's try this one from August. So in order to trigger the workflow, we have to change the status of the batch. And by doing that, we double click this ready to post column, trying to change the batch status to ready to post. And at that point, the workflow is triggered and we'll be notified that an approval is required to set the batch ready to post and that it's going to remain open. If I close that notification and I check my emails, I just got an email, the approver or approvers should have gotten an email notifying them that they need to approve the batch. So all the approvers would do is get that email, log into their Sage environment, and access the Extender workflow console. Now inside of the workflow console, that user is going to see all of the workflow instances that are assigned to them or a group that they're in. So you see, as I'm logged in as Anne here, I've got all of these different groups, sales manager, approvers, GL approvers, and I also have ones that are assigned to myself individually. So what we're going to do is take a look at this one that I've just done. And here in the workflow console, you have the ability to drill down to that actual GL batch straight from here. So if you click this drill down button and then the GL batch, it will take you straight to the GL batch that you're expected to approve. You can review, and if everything looks good, close that down. You also have the option to reassign the approval, delete the workflow instance, and you can also accept and post or reject the batch. In our case, if we wanted to reject the batch, we would be prompted to give a reason for the rejection, and that reason would be included in an email to the post initiator, the one who triggered the workflow initially, to let them know why that batch was rejected. So for our case, we're going to cancel that, and we're just going to select accept and post. Now there is also security built into the workflow, so it doesn't allow the user who initiated the workflow to approve it themselves. So let's close that down and log in as one of the other users in the approval group. So we'll say we'll log in as Steve. So we log in as Steve. Steve can also access his Extender workflow console. And inside of the console, you'll notice Steve is going to see different workflow instances that are assigned to him or group that he is in, and not the ones that Anne is seeing. So you can see the one that we just did here. Steve also has the ability to drill down to the batch itself. All of the other reassign, accept and post, and reject as well. And for this case, we're just going to accept and post the batch. And you'll see right away the workflow will trigger again, and it will automatically post the batch now that it's been approved. And then this batch, this workflow instance will be updated. There you go, posting sequence 110 completed. And this workflow instance will be updated. The description is now posted. And if we take a look back at our GL batches, see that the one that we chose is now posted. So that concludes the demonstration of the GL batch approval workflow. And welcome to this demonstration of a post-bank entry approval workflow using Extender's workflow functionality. Log into my demo company here. And before we get started, I need to enter my bank entry approver. I've created this approval group called BK Approval. This group contains 2 users, Anne and Steve. So that means both of these users will receive an email notification that an entry requires their approval, and the workflow is configured to only require one of the 2 of them to give their approval before posting the bank entry. If I open up the workflow template, you can see that I've configured the workflow to accept a workflow parameter as the workflow approver. So this approver, in curly brackets here, is equal to the $1 curly bracket. So when the workflow assigns the approving user, it will take the value in parameter 1 of the workflow. And to configure that, you go to View Events, Scripts, and Workflow. Open the view that your workflow is attached to. Click on this Workflows tab. And if you slide over, you can see parameter 1 there. I'm just going to put BK approval in there. So I'll save that, close. Now this way makes setting the approver a little easier and allows you to set it outside of the actual workflow template, which as you saw can be a little intimidating. So now the approver is set, we can go to our bank transactions, bank entry. And I'm going to enter a couple here. So we'll start with test, enter the bank. Just going to enter any old entry here. And I'm going to click add. So as soon as I click add, the workflow is going to be triggered because it's set to trigger on insert. So I click add, you see it loading there. And then it's going to notify the user that their bank entry must be approved in order to be posted. Now to demonstrate a couple extra little things we've done with some Python scripting, I'm going to do a couple more here. Enter, say 40, add. So now we've got another workflow being triggered for that entry. Okay, and let's just do one more. Say it's 20, and we'll add. Once again, notice the workflow is being triggered. And the first thing I wanted to show you that we did with Python scripting was the fact that we've sort of locked the screen now. So if a workflow is active, if anybody comes in and tries to change it, let's say to 25, and they click Save, they'll be notified that a workflow is already pending for that transaction and it must be approved or rejected before you can change the entry. Now, because these are always available to be changed until the actual entry is posted, we had to add a custom script in there in order to lock the screen so people can't change anything as long as there is a workflow active. Click OK. If we get out of here and we go into our workflow, or actually, first of all, so the approving users would have received emails for all of those entries, $30, $40, $20, just to notify them that they have entries in there that require their approval. Then once they receive those emails, they can log into their Sage 300, go to Extender Workflow, and open up their workflow console. And you see all three of the entries in there. And what they can do in here is reassign for a different person to approve. They can take a look at the history of the workflow. There isn't any right now because this is the first step. And they can also drill down to the bank entry itself. So if I click the drill down, click bank entry, it's going to take me to that bank entry screen and to that particular transaction that I'm going to approve. Now the approver also has the option to approve or reject. If they're rejected, they will be prompted to give a reason for the rejection. They enter that reason, and the user who initiated the workflow would receive an email telling them that their entry got rejected, with including the reason why. So if I cancel that, the other thing that we did with Python scripting was allow users to accept one or accept all. So accept all actually means that you're approving all of the entries that were created by a specific user and on a specific date. So in this case, if I clicked accept all of these would be gone. If there were some in there that were started by the admin from yesterday, that one would not be included in the accept all. So you can go through, you can reject any ones that need rejecting, and then you could accept all, or you could just do one at a time with this extra addition we've added with some Python scripting. So in my case, I'm going to, let's say, reject the first one. Just say it's no good. Hit OK. So that entry has now been rejected and disappears from the workflow console. And then for these, I'll just say accept all. I've already reviewed them. They look good. Accept all, and those two should both disappear from the workflow console now. Now you see they've posted the two bank entries. I can close. They're disappeared from the workflow console. And the person who initiated it would have been notified that their entries were rejected or approved. One thing I should note as well before ending this is that typically with this one, you would want to use Sage Securities to remove the post button from the bank entry screen. And that allows you to just a little extra security to make sure that bank transactions are only posted through approving the actual workflow. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Scott, for this insightful presentation of GL batch approval and bank entry approval workflows. And we particularly like seeing the accept all custom button on the workflow console, as well as the script that stops changing bank entries while there is a workflow in progress. So now we're going to explore a few selected apps developed by Poplar. As Poplar Development uses Customization Manager to deploy the apps, we will start with an introduction of Customization Manager, what its features and benefits are, and how to install it. Then Chris will demonstrate selected apps and their related configuration where required. First, a customization to push PO invoice description to the related AP invoice. Then a standard application to implement field level security by user using the PO date as an example. We will then look at an app to add optional field to Sage 300 records that don't have optional fields, and the example will be bank entry optional field. We'll then look at the OE EcoFee app to add lines to order entry orders and then another security-related app to control users who can do IC transfer from certain locations. So let me now hand over to Chris from Poplar.
Hello, my name is Chris Binkley. I run Poplar Development and create customizations to Sage 300 using Orchid Extender. I'm here to talk to you today about Customization Manager in the context of the Extender app marketplace. I'm going to start with Customization Manager, which is a product that I developed. I'm going to talk about why it exists, which is the question I field most often, what it does, and how you can use it. And then we're going to see a number of rapid-fire product demos in which we show Sage being enhanced with new features and functionality in small 2 to 5 minute clips in which you can see full functionality being applied and used in Sage. So I originally developed Customization Manager to solve a problem that I had, which was that working with Python in the Sage environment is the best way to develop customizations to Sage 300. But one of the things that Python is best at is allowing the creation of libraries and code reuse, and there is a whole universe of existing packages out there that we can use to enhance our Python code and develop better code more quickly. So I developed Customization Manager to connect to the Python package index, and my hope was that through there we would integrate Sage 300 with all kinds of services online rapidly and securely. As time went on, it became clear that we could kind of take a step out here and we could begin packaging extender customizations along with all of the supporting Python libraries and configuration in Python packages themselves. So today, extender customizations can be distributed as Python packages, and Customization Manager is used to install these packages from a broad catalog of pre-built customizations. So there are more than 70 that are available in my package index, and they integrate with services like AWS, Canada Post, Adobe Sign, Google Maps, and of course, Microsoft Excel. So that's why I built it, and that's what it has become. So for developers, this is a powerful platform for rapid customization development, code reuse, and distribution, all the way out to the client. But for business partners and users, it's a simple Sage 300 application that's built on Extender itself for downloading and installing over 70 customizations to Sage 300. As to how you can use it, I'm going to show you. We're going to start with a number of demos, but the first one is going to be installation and how you can get up and running in less than 2 minutes. But before we get started, there are a few things to note. As you browse through the customizations, you'll see that some are packaged and some are tailored. Those that are packaged solve general problems that don't generally vary from site to site, and therefore can be installed and used right out of the box. But many of the customizations are specific to a customer use case, naming, or other things that need to be changed in order to make it work for your specific customer's process. So tailored packages provide a very strong foundation upon which we can just make small changes to deliver great functionality to the customer. You'll also need an API key to access these customizations if you'd like to try any of this yourself, which you're welcome to do. They are available for test and demo at no charge. Without further ado, let's look at how Customization Manager is installed. Installing Customization Manager is easy. Customization Manager is distributed for free as an extender module. Start by opening a browser and navigating to Poplars, Poplars.dev, D-E-V. At the Poplar Development website, select Customization Manager from the navigation on the left, and then visit the documentation page. I'm going to open it in a new tab. At the very top of the documentation page is a link to download Customization Manager. This will prompt you to save expip.poplar.bi. It downloads quickly. Once downloaded, open Sage and log into the company into which you'd like to install it. Expand Extender, Setup, and open the Module screen. In the Module screen, click Import, and select the expip.poplar.bi module that we just downloaded. Customization Manager is now installed. It has one piece of configuration. To perform the configuration, open the Custom Table Editor. Load the Customization Manager configuration table, and add a new API key entry with your unique API key. For this demonstration, I will use a short key that is for demo purposes only. Add the new key and close the window. reopen the company to complete the installation, and you'll find that in the Extender Setup section of the desktop, there is now a link for Customization Manager. Double-click it to open Customization Manager for the first time. And the Customization Manager window opens for the first time, displaying all of the customizations to which you are entitled. We're going to start with a simple customization today that is called Poplar AP PO Desk. It'll automatically set AP invoice line descriptions to match the PO invoice line that was used to generate it. So just to illustrate the problem, if we have a look at the AP invoice batch list and find a PO generated batch, we open it up, we'll see that the lines in the entries in this batch have lost their item information. We're down to account description, GL account, and amount information only. This makes it quite challenging to map the lines in the AP invoice entry back to the PO. This customization is designed to solve that very specific problem. So we'll install it the same way that every customization distributed using Customization Manager is installed. We highlight it, and provided that the customization passes the built-in compatibility checks for Sage and Extender versions, yes, this one is compatible, the install button will be available. If you just click on it, then the customization will be installed. Installation involves downloading the newest version of the code directly from the internet and preparing the Python environment with any required libraries, and finally registering everything properly with Extender. All right, so once the installation is done, we close Customization Manager and reopen the company. Anytime that we change Extender scripts, we should reopen the company in order to make sure that all changes to views and screens have properly been registered. All right, let's get this going. We'll create a new receipt, and we'll create the invoice directly from the receipt. So vendor number 1200, let's add item A11030 and receive some fluorescent desk lamps at location 4. Let's do the same for the accompanying bulbs. Same location 4 and quantity received of 10. And then just to demonstrate that the customization will work with items that are not IC items, we'll add a non-IC item paper with a description of a paper ream. We'll receive 10 of those as well with a unit cost of $1. And I'm going to post this receipt, and in doing so I forgot to set my invoice number. So let's return to our receipt, set the invoice number, the PO invoice, close that, and post this receipt one more time to trigger the automatic PO invoice generation performed by Sage. Okay, with the receipt and invoice in place, it's time to move forward to our day end. So let's fire up day end processing and just kick that off. Right now, Sage is going through and taking those PO invoices and using them to create AP invoices. And now let's go have a look at that batch. All right, let's go straight to the last entry. Okay, our latest PO batch entry has 3 lines, A11030 for our lamp, our bulb, and our paper ream. So now the information from PO invoicing is carried through to AP and is available all the way through to the AP invoice report should you wish to show more information to the vendor. All right, so this is a simple targeted customization. It does a very specific job and is available and included with Customization Manager standard license. Next up, we have a crowd favorite, Poplar Screen Perms. This allows us to add custom recreate and update permissions to any screen or control in a screen. So very fine grained. We can specifically deny users access to updating a field, so they can create set a field when it's new, but not when it's being updated. The first time that this customization was requested, it was requested in order to restrict access to the PO date field. And that's what I'm going to demonstrate for you today. So we're going to create a new permission. We're going to give it a code. This is going to apply to screen PO 1210, PO entry, and we're going to restrict the PO date field. So that's PO 1210. And the description here is a permission to manage, not editing, but working with the PO date field. And much like with the screen permissions customization, we need the name of the control that we want to restrict access to and the header data source for the screen. So we can find that once again using UI info. We'll have a quick pop down to 1210, and we'll find quickly that the PO date control is called, there it is, FEC POPRH underscore PO date. Excellent. Okay, so we'll go back to our configuration, pop in here. PO date. And we'll just confirm the name of the data source. For the header, it's DS POPRH. And then we can define default permissions. These apply to all users. So by default, we're going to allow all users to set the field on a new record, all users to read the field, and all users to update the field. So we've added a new handler, once again, like the screen permissions, and we're going to have to restart the desktop for that to take effect. So we'll just dismiss that screen, close this one, get rid of our UI info, and reopen the company. So admin is able to manage the permissions, and so are other users if they're allowed to get into Extender setup. So we can open the assign permissions box, and here what we're going to do is assign a new permission or assign this permission to the user Chris and restrict Chris's ability to update the field. So we're going to read and create it, but update it? No. Okay, once we make the change, the configuration is automatically saved. We can close the window and reopen the company as Chris, the user to whom the permissions have been applied. All right, and now as Chris, I can go into PO, have a look at our purchase order entry. And to start, I'll find very little change. When I create a new PO, I have the create permission. So I can edit this date to be in the past, say yesterday. And I can post the purchase order. But because I don't have the update permission, when I return to the PO, I can no longer edit that field. This permission scheme can be taken one step further. And instead of just restricting write access to the field when the PO already exists, we can actually deny access to the field altogether, so that way it can no longer be seen. For a field like PO date, that's going to create a situation where the PO date will always be the default on create because the field won't be visible to the user, but that will work just fine. So let's go back to user Chris and change his permissions such that he cannot read. And when I disable the read permission, I also disable the ability to set the field on a new record, create, because without the ability to see the field, I can't set it. So I'll log in once again as Chris, and we'll check that PO screen one more time. And this time, we're going to see a change right away because access to that field has been fully removed. It's removed from the UI and is no longer visible for any PO. This doesn't restrict our ability to create new ones, but it does restrict our ability to see. This can be applied to any field, combinations, drop-downs, checkboxes, standard text fields, and it can be applied on fields on any tab. Okay. So that is the screen permissions customization, another highly flexible customization. The next customization I'd like to look at is the detail optional fields customization. This customization is a general purpose customization that allows you to add optional fields to detail views that don't otherwise have them, that aren't shipped with Sage. A classic example is bank entries. So we're going to reopen the company to apply the scripts and changes, and now let's perform a bit of configuration. So we're going to open the detail optional field config. And we're going to set that up for our detail view BK0460. And the optional field that I'm going to use is called project. So we're going to look through here for the project optional field. It's going to have a default value of my project, and I would like it to be editable in the grid. So we're going to add that piece of configuration, and we're off to the races. So now when we open bank services and have a look at the transactions and go in to add an entry, we're going to find that if we set the bank code so we can scroll the grid, let's just do a quick entry for, let's say, the interest distribution code for $10. And now as I get to the end of my grid, I find my new column, the project optional field column with the default value my project, which I'm going to change to interest. All right, let's save that line and add this entry and post it right through to the GL. All right, the posting is complete. Let's go have a look at that GL entry. See what its optional fields look like. Because the real value in these customizations is not just that they add additional optional fields. They behave like Sage optional fields, and they propagate to the GL, just like a Sage optional field. So let's have a look at the optional fields for the interest line, and here we see the project is set to interest. It's a very powerful customization that can be applied to many different views. Any detail view that doesn't have optional fields by default. Only the bank entry optional fields are supported today. However, customization is easily extended. It's a strong foundation to build on to add similar functionality to other views in Sage. A common request and use case is adding new lines to OE orders based on various conditions. So this customization, the Poplar eco fee customization, automatically adds eco fees based on the item location, or excuse me, based on the item selected and the location to which it's shipping. So this can be used for something like an electronic deposit fee, where all items with the same fee share the same category. Now that we've installed the customization, we'll reopen the company to apply the changes and start the configuration in the custom table editor. So I have created ahead of time some items that can serve to record deposits. So we're going to create a new deposit for BC, excuse me, with all items having a category of A1, and we're going to assign the eco fee item A1 deposit for BC. And we can create codes for other provinces as well. So for Ontario, for item category A1, we may use E1040, which is the A1 deposit for Ontario. So after we've configured our provinces, when we go into order entry and open up the order entry screen, if we create a new order for a customer that happens to reside in one of those two provinces, and I know just such a customer 1210 resides in BC, so let's input that customer and order some items in the A1 category. Okay, so let's start with a classic fluorescent desk lamp. And we'll order 10 of those. And we'll get the 10 accompanying bulbs as well. Now, in addition to these two A1 items, we'll throw in a non-A1 item to which no deposit should be applied. So let's have an item from the F1 group, a filing cabinet. And we'll take 2 of those. When the order is posted, the customization is going to look through. It's going to identify all items to which the eco fees apply, and it's going to insert the eco fees in line beneath the item to which they apply. So here we have a A1 deposit for BC after the desk lamp and after the bulb. We can delete the lines by hand, but this customization is designed not to allow the user to override. So on subsequent post, the eco fees are restored. No matter what happens, the fees will always travel with this order. It's also possible to add overrides via optional fields and use other settings to allow posting of orders that may not meet the criteria. It's a quick tour of adding in line to an OE order based on criteria. Last but not least, we have the IC transfer security customization. This customization was originally created for a site in which items are sometimes placed on quarantine as they're making their way through the warehouse. So a warehouse worker identifies that the item needs to be moved to the quarantine. They move it to the quarantine location, but once it's there, only a very specific set of users, the QA group, who perform analysis on the item, can move it back out of that location. So that's their business process, and they would like to see it reflected in Sage. So I'm just going to reopen the company to apply the changes, and now we'll do a little bit of configuration. So in my example, the environment is pre-configured to recognize two security groups, one for the warehouse and one for QA members. So I'm going to add the user Chris, who is a member of the warehouse group. Contrast that with the QA group. So the warehouse group can only move things from a normal location into a quarantine location. The user Anne is a member of the QA group. So she can move things from a quarantine location back to a standard warehouse location. These are specifically the details that may need to be tailored for a customization to work in your customer's environment. Okay, with that in place, let's log in as a user to whom these restrictions actually apply. Let's start with Chris. All right, and go straight into IC and start looking at some transactions. So let's do a transfer of item A11030 from location 1, which is a normal warehouse location, to location Q1, which, as we can see by the description, is a quarantine location, and we'll request one item be moved. All right, so let's save this transfer. No trouble at all, because as a warehouse worker, I'm authorized to move things from a warehouse location to a quarantine location. However, if I try and do the reverse, take that item back out of quarantine, so the from location to the quarantine and two locations to the warehouse this time, request that one item back. Now the first issue is that there are none of those items there yet because we haven't processed the previous transfer, but the second is that user Chris is not authorized to transfer from locations with names containing quarantine. So an error is raised and the warehouse user cannot transfer out of quarantine. So we'll dismiss this dialog and just finish the process as the user Anne. So let's not save that transfer, reopen our company as Anne. And Anne's going to start by completing the process. So she'll try and move that one item of A11030 from the quarantine location to the warehouse location. And when Anne goes to save the transfer, there's no trouble other than quantities. If Anne were to try and do the opposite, to put something into quarantine, which is not her role, she will also receive an error message telling her that that action is not allowed. So to a quarantine location from a warehouse location, any quantity, on save, Anne is not authorized to transfer locations with names containing quarantine. So Anne can't transfer in, only out. This simple customization demonstrates how we can implement very specific security and business processes can be enforced in Sage.
Thank you, Chris. So today we've demonstrated selected apps that are showcased on the Extender Marketplace for Sage 300. How do you get going with the Extender Marketplace? Discover the different apps by searching and browsing on the Orchid website, and then contact the developers for details, including pricing, the minimum requirements. If you want to install and try the apps for 30 days, for some of them you will be able to access a trial license, trial code, and then you can download and have a play with them for yourselves. Then you can document the exact requirements to tailor the apps for your customers. In terms of purchasing the apps, as we have mentioned, the marketplace is not a platform to purchase and download. You will contact the developers directly to purchase, and then the end users work through their Sage 300 business partner to get the apps. If you are a Sage 300 developer using Extender to build some customizations for Sage 300, please contact us to see how we can work together to list your apps on the marketplace. Thanks for your time today, and we look forward to answering your questions on the different apps available on the marketplace. Okay, so now we have time for questions, which you can type in the questions box as you are all in listen-only mode, and we'll be able to answer your questions. And we will I will soon hand over to Anne to show us a bit how to browse and search for the apps. As you've seen in this presentation, we've introduced a range of solutions for Sage 300 built on Extender. They're only it was a quick demo, and they're only a small proportion of what is available on the marketplace, and it was really hard for us to choose our favorite to demonstrate in there. So I'd encourage you to go onto the Orchid website, look at the marketplace, search if one of your clients has a question on purchase orders, on optional fields, on the grid. Just search and look for what's already been done. One of the questions is how can I try some of the apps? As Chris mentioned in the presentation, the Poplar apps can be, you can get a customization manager demo key that will let you try the apps, and similarly with the Orchid and the RLA ones. So get in touch with the developer to try them out.
Thank you, Natalie. So yes, to show you how to search for an app, if you're on the Orchid website as opposed to on the Poplar website initially, in the Sage add-on menu, we have the Extender menu, and you can select the Extender Marketplace from within this Extender menu. And on the marketplace, we have all the apps listed here, and we have classified them based on the module they relate to. For example, accounts payable, accounts receivable, bank services, etc. But if you can also use the search here. So if I was interested in optional fields, and I wanted to look at Extender apps only, I can just filter the optional field search string for Extender apps. And here we can see a number of different apps which allow you to set the optional fields on a particular event being triggered. PO optional fields, so this is where you've got optional fields on the PO header and the details. And as you change the header once, you want it to ripple through to the details. Grid optional fields allows you to dynamically, well, not dynamically, but by configuration, choose any number of optional fields that have been assigned to a particular detail in the grid and apply them through the grid. And we do have a video on this one, which we will link through on our website here or on Poplar's website. It shows you how you can configure optional fields for the OE shipment detail. Sorry, the OE order detail. You can choose any number of optional fields and they'll automatically appear in the grid. And then you can apply those same settings and apply it onto the shipment grid and the invoice grid. So no coding needed, just by configuration. The detail optional fields one is the one Chris demonstrated, adding optional fields to the bank services entry and so on. So this is the sample script that we have to allow you to put optional fields into the AP invoice detail. So if you are using it with inter-entity transactions, you can see that, and you're using entity as an optional field, you can see it and edit it in the grid. But this does require coding as opposed to Chris's optional, the grid one, this grid optional fields, which you could do that without any coding, just by choosing the optional field value, and so on. So I know that Chris has got a lot of utilities on grids as well. So this is there, you know, putting any field in the optional field grid. This is adding columns to the grid. And this is adding an optional field to the GL. This is our example for entity again, of adding a optional field to the grid on GL transactions, assuming you want to enter your entity in the grid as opposed to 2 clicks away on the optional fields tab. And then on any of these particular, if we go back to the optional fields. Depending which one that you want to look at, if we look at this detail optional fields, when you select it, it will give you some more information. Depending on the information available, and depending where the customization comes from, clicking on the more info here, it will take you to the Poplar development website, if it is a Poplar development app, and you will see the documentation that is provided by Chris, and details on contacting Chris as well. Okay, so anything else you wanted me to show at this stage, Natalie, from the website, or maybe?
Thank you. No, I don't think so. We have a question there. Do these apps work with the Sage web screen? So the answer to this one is some do and some don't. Basically, we have details on that in the knowledge base, in the Orchid knowledge base. But as Extender, when Extender scripts are attached to an actual view, then they will work on the web screen. So if you have a workflow that starts when a batch is posted, the workflow will start even if the batch is posted on the web screens. But some of the customization that involved screens, so if you're adding a field to a grid, or if you're adding a button, those currently are not available for the web screen. So if you have a particular requirement and you see an app that meets that requirement, please contact developer or us to see if it is available for the Sage web screen. Now, going forward, as you know, we're currently working on our web screen, so at some stage we will provide capability to customize the web screen in Extender, but this is not available yet. And while we are on what is supported, Extender is currently available for most versions of Sage 300, but is currently only supported with the supported versions of Sage, being 2019 and above. And again, you can find details on that on our website. And otherwise, as usual, we will send you a link to the presentation. And if you have any questions in the future, contact us on support@orchid.systems, and we will get back to you. We hope you found it interesting. We're really excited about this slightly different way of presenting what can be done with Extender, and seeing some ready-made solutions that you can apply to your prospects and clients. So we welcome your feedback, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks very much for your time, and we look forward to speaking to you again next month.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.